Welcome to On the Brink with Andi Simon. Hi, I'm Andi Simon. And as you know, I'm an anthropologist, and I developed this podcast so I could help people all across the globe begin to see, feel, and think in new ways so they can change. Now, I must tell you that our podcast recently, and this is about our 708 or 9th podcast I'm doing today, are all about what people are innovating, changing, and bringing to market that can really improve the lots of others in ways that are quite exceptional. I often say, take your observations and turn them into innovations. They ask, what does an anthropologist do? I said, we hang out and we watch and we see and we begin to really embrace the opportunities that are in front of us. And some work and some don't, but this is really important. Today, for you, our audience, whether you're watching or you're listening, I have two remarkable people here, and I think their stories are going to be inspirational for you and your stories. So let me tell you about their bios, and then I'll let them tell you about their own journeys so that you can better understand why I think they're so exciting. First, it's Shana Greathouse. To my left, perhaps your right, is a founder and CEO of Piggyback. Interesting name for a company. A tech-driven marketplace dedicated to empowering tradespeople by connecting them with homeowners for community-centered projects. And she will tell you about her vision, about the problem that needs to be solved, her purpose and meaning, and what's so exciting about what she's doing. She has an MBA and a background in consulting and analytics, and she leads Piggyback in leveraging AI to streamline contractor scheduling and promote group deals, making home services more accessible and collaborative. And as a homeowner, it is really difficult at times to get that project done, find someone who'll come in and take care of it. And so this is really quite an innovative approach to help solve the homeowner's dilemma, but also the contractor's need for business. Her mission is to foster strong community ties by supporting local trades professionals and driving sustainable development in neighborhoods across the country. This is quite interesting, isn't it? And then Joe Manofsky, who's to my bottom here, could be next to you, has a wonderful, wonderful resume. He talks about his upbringing in the Youngstown, Warren area, instilled a strong work ethic and a drive for success that defines who he is today. He graduated from Kent State in 2011. He's made several career changes as he's transitioned to a fractional consultant role in early 2024. Now, he has an expertise in philanthropy, social media marketing campaigns, and full independent ownership of a multi-line property and casualty company. And he's most proud of his proven track record of building strong client relationships and driving growth for organizations. He is really a fundraiser, a digital marketer. He brings together a holistic approach to see how he can help people grow. And he's deeply committed to making positive impact on his community. He's chairman, president, and co-founder of the 501c3 nonprofit organization One Step Ahead that you can see on his screen. He's gained valuable experience in local community development and large-scale event facilitation, serving the needs of local populations. Interesting conversations for today. Gentlemen and ladies, thank you for being here. I can't tell you what fun it is, and I'm glad we met. As serendipitous as our meeting is, what I'd love you to do is talk about your own journeys, because when we spoke about it, it's much richer than a bio can ever be. And I'm going to start with Shanna, if you don't mind, Joe. Talk to us about your own evolution, how this came about. And then, Joe, you can do the same. And then what we really want to talk about is how you're learning so much and how others could do a similar problem. Please, Shanna.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you so much. And Joe, great to see you. Yeah, so I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. My family's from West Virginia, so I'm very originally. So I'm very passionate about Cleveland because it's given me a ton of opportunities, and also rooted a lot of my love for giving back in community. My undergrad's actually kind of funny. It's in physical therapy, but I was a victim of the 08 financial crisis and decided instead of opting to go for a DPT and get more loans, I went for my MBA. So both of those are from BW, and that kind of threw me into the world of business pretty early on. I was in oil and gas for a couple of years. I got into Philips Health Tech for a bit. And then even was at American Greetings, which was a lot of fun. But each of those times actually were sadly laid off each time, which led me into consulting. And then I did consulting for 5 years or so in various leadership roles, worked with private equity, did M&A, lots of stuff around recommending layoffs, which is ironic since I had been through 3 myself. Um,
So you understood it.
I did very much from the other side. And I just really felt that I wanted to do more and infuse my why into to borrow from Simon Sinek on into my everyday life. So given that I love community so much, I wanted to do something that really built that up. So for me, that was starting with the home, coming from West Virginia, where there's a lot of you know, poverty and homes that are barely qualified as homes around all the time. I really understood the value in having a neighborhood that you can be proud of and that's beautiful and therefore safer and more community oriented. People are outside more. There's just a lot more opportunity that comes with it. And I had been in supply chain consulting, so I just kind of put on my supply chain hat for a bit and saw the opportunity to really build a two-sided marketplace. So kind of like a DoorDash or an Uber kind of model, but for home services that helps tradespeople as well. My husband had kind of ventured into trades for a little bit, and I saw the struggles of owning your own business and working those long hours and, the hard work on your body as well. And we have to treat them well. There's a massive trade shortage. So that's where Piggyback was born. And really, we're about empowering homeowners to come together and build the community and get access to group deals. So we basically digitally canvas neighborhoods for contractors. We let their schedules do the work for them, broadcast to the neighborhoods. The neighbors are able to piggyback on, and then everybody wins. You get a group deal, something you can feel really good about at the end of the day. And conversely, neighbors can even build their own piggyback rides and recruit people for lawn services or pool cleaning or whatever you could think of, and then push that to contractors for group bids so that it's a little more affordable and fun. Yeah.
Pause for a moment. So, Joe, how did you get involved, and what is one step, for Ohio?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit 501c3. I'm going to try to answer your question as poignantly as possible. What do you mean by how did I get involved with Shanna or the organization?
Well, let's see. You have a very diverse background. And today's conversation is really about your commitment to your desire for purpose, about one step ahead in Ohio or for Ohio. So tell me about your own journey here and how you became so involved in China and where you see the development of one step ahead for Ohio.
Yeah, so one step ahead Ohio, it came to fruition back in 2020. We never envisioned it would get to this point, I don't think, so quickly, but it's growing, and I'll explain why shortly. But as I mentioned there in the bio, growing up in the Youngstown, Warren area, it instilled a lot of values in me of, family, friends, community is very, very important. But the bigger picture is that, when you start to be able to have a position to give back, make sure you give back to those, you that have supported you your whole journey, right? That's what I always saw and took away from that. Now, my career path has led me over a bunch of different places. I was the kid in high school that probably shouldn't have went to college, but they told me that was the option to go. I took out my enormous amount of student debt to do it. And crazy enough, now in 2024, I haven't used my college degree or needed to use it for anything in the past 7 to 8 years, right? So
That's quite an endorsement for the hard work it took and the money that it takes.
yeah, it's one of those things that back when I graduated high school in 2005, the trades were looked down upon, and the people that I see now and over the past few years that have gone into the trades, you know, they're passing up a lot of people that have college degrees from a career standpoint. They have less debt. They're now business owners. They did their apprenticeship. They moved into these roles. So I know I'm not directly in the world. As I mentioned, I do some consulting for companies to help them with social media campaign marketing and building and just understanding more how all of that works from the data side. Also, I've been in the insurance industry, mainly personal lines, for the past 8 years now. I've owned my own agency going on 4. My focus has always really just been with anything that I do is, you know, focusing on helping people. Everything else will fall in line, whether your goals are money, whether your goal is time, whether your goal is to make more impact, make more friends, whatever that may be. Just make sure you're always focusing on others first. And I've always had that mentality in the business world, but when everything started happening in 2020, I started to see a little bit of a need, and so did some other people in my network. And we started One Step Ahead Ohio with a couple things. The 3 main things that I reflect back on now are we saw a need for 3 things. The first one is we wanted a nonprofit where people could donate to, but we could completely eliminate the executive salaries. So myself, all the other board members, people in our ambassador role, nobody is paid. It's all a donation of time. We do have one paid position, and that's our internship program, which we partner with local colleges to get interns, right? So eliminating executive salaries was huge, and we have done that since day one, and we're never going to pay executive salaries. Number 2 that we saw really was transparency. You know, there's a lot of great nonprofits, and there's big ones, small ones. When you start really diving into them, it's really hard to tell where the money's coming from, where it's going, and so forth. So our big thing is social media blast, constantly website updates, email blast, and an annual report that just highlights everything we do, the money coming in, the money going out. It's very transparent to our donors. And then the last thing, which I should preference, is probably the biggest reason we do this, is the need we saw just from a general standpoint is that money that is raised by the people from fundraisers, donations, or these organizations and businesses across Northeast Ohio that donate, we can fully, transparently show them that their money exclusively serves families in need and other nonprofits in need across Northeast Ohio. How does the skilled labor tie into all that? Well, we have one of our initiatives is the Skilled Labor Foundation. The main goal there is a long-term goal. By 2028-29, we're going to have an endowment built that will be able to give grants to career and technical high schools to help with like classroom facility upgrades, new equipment for their programs based around skilled trade and manufacturing. But in the right now, we're hosting community advocacy events where we can bring in people from all different sides of the skilled labor industry to come together, network, and really get this idea moving of how can we get earlier career exploration opportunities for younger people, mainly focused around the middle school level, to help with the workforce development.
How interesting. And all of this is coming out of your own ideas. It's not based upon anything more than you guys can see what the problem is and you're going about solving it in a way that makes a lot of sense. Now, are there particular middle schools? I mean, is this a collaboration? Are you hiring or training people there? Shanna, you're shaking your head. What is actually happening in the schools themselves? Give us some picture. So if somebody who's listening or watching would like to do something similar, do you just make it up, or is there a whole process?
Yeah, so I should have preferenced that when we originally started the Skilled Labor Foundation, we've always had the endowment idea and goal, because we know if we can write $50, $75, $100,000 donations to these schools, that will directly make an impact in workforce development. There's no doubt about it. If they have the updated equipments and tools and everything that the world's going to have in 5-10 years from now. We originally thought going into this that if we just provided scholarships to high school kids that are going into the skilled trade industry, that would solve the problem. Year one went by, nobody applied. Year two went by, nobody applied. We have this money there. People say they love it. Nobody applies, right? We realized going into the fourth year that we needed to pivot. So we really started diving in and connecting ourselves with people in the industry. Like, what are you seeing? What is going on? What do you need? And the overwhelming consensus of everybody's point is that by the time they're introduced to understanding what a career path could look like, they've already had too many people in their ear telling them to go elsewhere. So the overwhelming sentiment was that you need to get in front of these kids younger. And we came up with the idea of, well, they do career exploration events at high schools to go into all different jobs. They do them at colleges. Why can't we do them in middle schools where it's more of an event where the kids can come, get hands-on experience, see these different tools and get excited that way? But the messaging behind the scenes is to the parents is, look, college doesn't have to be the only option. These are all successful people in the skilled trades. Let's connect them together to get the conversation going. There are no particular schools at the moment because this idea just came to fruition basically in the past year and a half. But we're holding these community advocacy events that tie in people from the career and technical schools, the local community colleges, with these business owners, manufacturing owners, to get the conversation started of how we do it. What that will look like, that is what we're working through right now. But the end goal is to have at least semi-annual events in schools that are just career exploration for manufacturing and skilled trade jobs that can get these kids excited younger.
How exciting. I have some thoughts, but I want to hear from Shanna, your thoughts on what Joe's been sharing with us.
Yeah, so I'm one of the I guess ambassadors for that program with Joe with One Step Ahead. Just because Piggyback selected One Step Ahead early on as one of our nonprofit partners to donate money to from our revenue. Actually, 5% of our revenue goes to nonprofits that support specifically trades and community development. Yeah, like he said, we're pretty early on. On Piggyback side, we're doing similar events, more on the community building side, so less on the education side, but on the build and trades empowerment. So that's a key go-to-market that we're currently structuring as well. I love the idea of doing advocacy and making it visible. And the great thing too is Joe is a wizard with social media. You get great repeatable content there to just amplify the message even more. So we're actually, for us, for Piggyback, that's what we want to use it for, is great reels and moments that are impressions that can really stay with people. And on the education front, I think it's very powerful as well.
It's so interesting because the things that we value may or may not be the right things for the right time. And it's interesting. We had a higher ed client for a number of years in Pennsylvania, and they were a 2-year community college, and their enrollment had gone from 12,000 down to 8,000, which is not a good trajectory. And their board was sure it was simply they weren't recruiting advocates properly. The only problem was that the population was declining and there weren't that many more students to recruit. And the other problem was that industry was getting into the schools early, just as you're describing. They were training and hiring before they even graduated. And then they could go to college afterwards if there was a reason for learning something in the college setting. But they were trying to invert the whole model so that it wasn't college first and then you find a job. It's let's get you employed. And the salaries were excellent and the training was all started early in their high school years so that they were prepared, ready to go when they graduated. And I share that with you because the community college was behind. It was the industry that saw the gap and they were going in there to do their own training. And so, part of the question for that community college was, why did you allow them to be the advocates for the very jobs that could be yours? I mean, these are students who are being trained at the expense and the investment of the folks who are going to work with them. And that collaboration was working quite well. So you're on the cusp of something I think that's transformative. And I love the social media because you're going to legitimize the careers. And so it becomes really wonderful to think about it. You know, Shanna, you spoke about your husband. You know, Joe, I have a hunch you know lots and lots of people. Can you begin to measure the changing, I'll call it brand or identity, that people who work in the trades can begin to embrace so they don't feel like they are the failure or the not having gone to the right place people, as opposed to being extremely talented, successful, and competent in the careers that they have? Because this is a value change. Any thoughts about what you're doing and how you can see it happening, Shanna? You're shaking your head, so I'm going to go to you first. Go ahead.
There is one. I don't want to ruin their idea by getting too specific, but I was just part of an incubator in Cleveland called Sea Change. It's an amazing incubator that is for B Corps and nonprofits to go through to make sure that we're heading in the right direction for community change and social enterprises. But there was a gentleman that I met there who has this idea for a company where you're gamifying roofers and tradespeople where they're competing against each other and it's broadcast as a show and showing them as like a hero persona, that there's athletics to it, that there's, you know, it's very physical. It's almost like a sport, and transforming it to something cool. And the fact that that idea is even in that person's brain and that they're pursuing that just shows how powerful that messaging is, that it is something to be very proud of. Now that there's just a huge need for trades and there's a scarcity. So there's pride in it. And with social media, with influencers, you're seeing more and more creators and tradespeople making a secondary income from people just watching them build things.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Don't lose that thought. That is a real powerful opportunity. How about yourself, Joe? What do you see happening? People rebranding this in such a way as turning it from negative to positive and doing it through both personal stories and through the performance they have.
Yeah, I mean, I'm now at this point, I'm pretty deep into the webbing of this industry, especially here in Northeast Ohio. So sometimes I do sit back and reflect, because I really feel like the narrative is changing overall everywhere. People are realizing that you need an electrician and it takes 3 weeks to get one and it's very expensive now. What's changing? Well, it's no secret that these people are in need, and that's just one of the many options that, you know, I don't see getting replaced by AI or anything like that. Somebody coming into your home, fixing your plumbing, your, you know, welding in your basement, whatever the case may be, right? I really just feel that the power of the masses getting the message out via word of mouth is important. That's why with our community advocacy events, we find that very important to put like-minded people in the room and just keep the messaging going, how important this is. And a shift from 2005 to almost 2025, now 20 years later, you know, I saw a statistic, and don't quote me, but I think it said CNBC reported that, I want to say in the last year or post-pandemic since 2021, the overall college enrollment has dropped by like 980,000 individuals.
Right.
And those individuals are dropping out because they're seeking apprenticeships and education opportunities at like a community college that have these programs available to then get into an apprenticeship. So that to me means the narrative is slightly shifting, I would guess. But my thing is just the two biggest things you can do if you believe in this or anything that you believe in is anytime you're in a room, meeting, social setting, whatever it is, just advocate and raise awareness for what you believe in. Our organization believes in workforce development, and these roles are important. Doing things for skilled labor and manufacturing people to make them feel important.
Yep.
It's really important to understand from what I've been gathering, especially from this panel event we hosted, is that the culture these companies are building need to be focused around more of like, hey, you're not just a laborer coming in. If you tell them they're a laborer, they're a laborer. If you tell them they're a roofing technician specialist, they feel like a roofing technician specialist. it's changing the narrative outside the industry, but it's also changing the narrative of inside the industry, that these entry-level positions are your path to a career level position.
I think this is brilliant. So workforce development, you triggered something because I work with a 14 hospital system in Kentucky, and they have a young man who has taken on workforce development for the healthcare industry. I don't know who in your region is focused on workforce development or what the grants are to support you there. But this is serious. In healthcare, what are they doing? They just got a grant to build a whole facility for med techs and physician assistants and radiology techs. And I may be mistaken on which ones, but there's no skilled people. And while having a roofer is extremely important, have someone who can read sonar or do technology in the healthcare world is also important, because if not, you can't get care. If it takes you 3 weeks to get an electrician, you don't want to wait 3 weeks for a mammogram. And so this is a really interesting problem across this country that you are grabbing a hold of. One of the things that might be interesting is to step back and look at collaborations. We spoke about the university, some in my dots, the university who was losing college students because they were being trained by others. But the others were really in need of resources to collaboratively train them. And the new names that this guy who's playing games are extremely powerful because young people are very game oriented. Their avatars are their best friends. We could talk about video gaming a lot. And one of my universities found that the young people didn't want to play sports in person. They prefer to play e-games and gamble on them. And so there's a whole other piece of that, but that's really a cool idea of having, championships among roofers on an e-game. And then you have the workforce development folks out there. This is, you're as you're describing this, I'm seeing it in a bigger picture with lots and lots of pieces pulling together to really transform a region or even the whole country if we can begin to get that transformation multiplying. So I don't know if you have some thoughts on my thoughts, but I'm listening and I'm saying this is bigger than a bear.
Yeah, so Cleveland's very lucky. We have as the Rust Belt does, we've got a very rich manufacturing history. So we have really amazing resources specifically for skilled labor development. More of a niche in manufacturing, I would say, than general trades. But we do have, for example, Magnet on the east side of Cleveland. I was just there on Friday last week speaking to about 30 students, maybe 60, from Marshall Technical School. So it's a whole school dedicated to the engineering and STEM that's in the inner city of Cleveland. And their facility is amazing. They've got full manufacturing line replicas there and every kind of machinery that I can imagine, at least in manufacturing there. And the kids get to have lots of hands-on experience. The Great Lakes Innovation Center, or Science Center, sorry. They were talking about the fantastic programs that they do. Specifically, they do coding now. They teach kids the basics of blockchain early on, as an example, and technical in that way as well. But there's just amazing initiatives here. Sherwin-Williams has a really amazing program for trades as well. Probably very similar to your comment around industry getting in early. I'm not sure how early. I want to say they're not like middle schoolers or high schoolers. They might be past that, but specifically developing the trades for painting.
Yep. Joe, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my thought just sitting here and listening and taking new ideas in, which I love to do, it's really something that, we have our focus is the middle school. We think that's where it needs to go. The conversation needs to go there. These programs need to start getting built. They're not going to get built unless people that care about it and people that know about it from both sides of the industry are connected. Our slogan from day one that we came up with is becoming better together. And we truly believe that. I can't do this by myself. Nobody in our organization can do it by ourselves. It's really about connecting the people. And we know not everybody you get in a room is going to connect with each other. It just is what it is. It's not human nature. But truly, the people that have synergy will find it. And if it's something they find that has no benefit to our organization or our program, but it helps workforce development around manufacturing and skilled trades for, people that are post high school, that's movement. So, we have our little specific thing that we're focused on, just advocating and raising awareness. And it's what our organization does, but truly it's about getting the bigger picture collective to understand that the way it's been traditionally looked at is probably the reason that we're in this problem of a shortage. So how do you correct it? Here's one way we think. Magnet has their other way. The GCP has their other way, and it goes on and on. Well, if all these people have these different ideas, the conversation is still around the same thing.
Yep.
So I just think raising awareness and advocating, I can't explain it or can't express it enough, is one of the biggest tools. It's as big as tool as having a program at Tri-C. It's as big as a tool of having a long-term career path within your manufacturing company to give people goals and promotions. It's as big as an idea of what Shanna mentioned of coming up with new creative ways of making an app to make it a little bit more fun. And all these things is what it's going to take. And everybody plays their part, and hopefully everybody cross paths, and it just keeps compounding.
I think this is so exciting. I'm going to throw one name out there for you to make a note of. I was in Milwaukee 2 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks. And I met Katie Malknight, who has a company called Engage Workforce Solutions. And what she was doing was, out of necessity, the manufacturers didn't have people who could do forklifts or even know how to optimize the forklift. And so she began to realize that she could take a whole lot of folks who need to be trained for if they can't manufacture because they have nobody to manufacture, how to train them so that they were ready. So what started out as a little, for one, has now escalated, and now she's looking at expansion. I may be mistaken even into Detroit, but there's a bunch of stuff going on, and I don't know how to best articulate this other than it is extremely transformational when you put the dots on a board. If you took all your little post-its of all the stuff going on and stick it up on the board, there's a bigger story there, and you need to get the press to be impressed by it, because it's not a onesie here or a little program there. It's a major initiative to transform the workforce fast, because we need them fast. And we can talk about the electrician you can't get, but if manufacturing can't get a forklift driver and they only use half the forklift, that doesn't work for anybody either, right?
Yeah, that's a great point, and it just sparks something else in my mind here, is that a lot of times when in any industry, and Shanna may feel it from the creating an app industry, I definitely see it in the insurance industry and consulting and nonprofit for sure, is a lot of people get too stuck to the idea that they're in competition with other people doing the same thing. So the manufacturing company that needs the forklift guy doesn't want the manufacturing company down the street to get the forklift guy. But if they both would collaborate and understand they have the same need, they might find a solution to get 3 forklift guys.
Yep.
And that's really powerful what you said there, because it's, and I go back to it, it's collaboration, it's putting people together, and it's understanding that this is a bigger picture we're chasing. If you chase it together, it's going to impact your business better than if you chase it by yourself.
Go ahead, Shanna.
Just the co-opetition was a huge part of when I was in consulting, like partnerships, reaching across the aisle to the people you thought you were in direct competition for. You'd actually find little niches that you didn't know existed, and were able to really have some meaningful movement forward for the industry overall. I was just thinking of the demand for manufacturing is just growing astronomically in the US. And we're not going to be able to keep pace with it. Ohio is putting in the Intel plant, for example, as we're moving away from relying on China for as much as we have. We're seeing the port pressure right now where there's the strikes. So we're only going to see more and more demand for manufacturing. So we have to get ahead of that curve.
Yep. I think that's a big opportunity for you guys to think through how to turn those into problems that have solutions. One of the things that I asked Katie was, you're training younger people. What can the elders do? She said, we're bringing them in to be the trainers. And so as you're thinking about the elders, maybe even retired, I know too many retired people have nothing to do. And they should be out there doing the training for the youngers, wherever they can, because they could bring a wisdom and maturity and a transformation for the meaning of what's going on, as long as they can do the trades and not simply mix it. I'm looking at our time, and I'm almost sorry we can't keep thinking about this. A couple of things that I wrote down was, don't forget how artificial reality is being used by Walmart to train their people, and how AR and virtual reality can be part of the training pieces. 3D printing can be, augmented reality can be amazing. They're starting to build buildings with 3D printing in a day. And if the skills aren't there, the technology can't thrive without the people who can thrive with it. And so there's a whole lot of interesting opportunities coming. Perhaps you'll come back in, I don't know, 6-9 months and tell us what happened. Can you put some data together between now and then, so that we can celebrate progress, look at problems intelligently, and begin to add value? A podcast is useful if we can help people see what's happening, begin to understand how they can do it. And so give me a few weeks, because we have a big queue in the podcast stream here. But I'd like to get this out, promote it, give it to you to use on your Facebook and your social media, and send it to people on your emails. Use it as an advertorial, because you're really doing something that's really cool stuff. Last thoughts? I started with Shanna. I'll start with Joe. Last 1 or 2 things you want the listeners to perhaps know or do.
Yeah, I guess really, and I'm going to circle back to what I've been saying, is if you find this topic important, check us out. Our Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, One Step Ahead Ohio. Like I said, we're very transparent. You can see what's going on every week, month, whenever things happen in our organization. But the change comes when people come together. And from your side, my ask is advocate and raise awareness that college is not the only option.
Good. I think this is so exciting. Although my college clients won't be excited by it, but maybe they can rethink themselves and become part of the advocacy.
And I should have said this really quick, is we understand we still need doctors, we still need lawyers, we still need all these people, but there are those few kids in every scenario that don't really know what to do, and they feel pressure to go one route. It's just opening doors and eyes that, hey, this could be another route you can go.
And I think one that can give you a very successful career. And we're working with a bunch of women who are building businesses that have profit and purpose, have significance as well as success. In some ways, you're thinking the same way for these young folks, because they need to have significance as well as success. And that is a real transformation. Shanna, last thoughts?
Yeah, you can also check us out at piggyback.com or my LinkedIn. I post obnoxiously a lot on there, so feel free to follow that along. It's just /Shana Greathouse. And just advocating and being an advocate for tradespeople. Also using it as a way. I'm a big fan as a consumer of voting with your dollar every day. So when you're supporting the trades, you're supporting small businesses often. You're often supporting small businesses that are women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned. So that's something that Piggyback really cares about as well. And just be mindful of that whenever you're booking your next home service.
Yes, and that roofer who's a woman does a very fine job. And it is, it's gender unbiased. Anything that, if you need a roofer, it's okay, whatever it is. This has been such fun. Let me wrap. For all of you who come across the globe, today we've had 2 marvelous people who are trying to transform so many things: how we think about the trades, how we train the trades, how we understand the importance of skilled people. I was going to say skilled labor, but they're people, and giving them the opportunity to create businesses and scale them and understand why this matters so much, both for them and for the society in which we're living. And to your points, both of you, that we live in communities, we want to belong and we want them to thrive. And it doesn't much matter where we are, we've got to rebuild them so that both the Intel and the local community can really, really do well. If you're interested in our books, they're all available at Amazon. Amazon loves you. On the Brink is about how anthropology can help your business grow. Rethink is smashing the myths of women in business, as Shanna can show you. And Women Mean Business is our latest book. It's exactly a year old, and it is done extremely well, helping women see, feel, and think in new ways, which is my job. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, take your observations and turn them into innovations, as Joe and Shanna have done. That's how we grow. And today was giving you lots of ideas, sometimes big ones. So let us know how it's helped you, and we'll keep helping. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.